Hi everyone, welcome to 2SecondsWatch YouTube channel. So today it's a follow-up video on one of the reviews and unboxing I did of this watch. But here I'm going to talk about 5 key ways that this watch, the Longines Spirit 40mm, is better than the IWC Mark XX. Yes, that's right. I really do believe it is better in many and every way as a luxury watch piece. Now hear me out, and I'm going to go through it right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is the watch heritage of this watch. So I'm going to bring it up here so that we can have some close-ups on it. So Longines is actually a watch manufacturer from what, 1800s, 1838 or something like that. So they've been in the watchmaking business for a very, very long time. And the heritage that they have for this watch is really amazing. I mean, if you look closely at the watch, you can see that this design has been very well thought out. And Longines, as a watch brand with the heritage of the Aviation line, you can find great watches like the Big Eye Aviation. I'm gonna put a picture here so you can see it. The Longines Big Eye Aviation, which was launched a couple of years ago, a chronograph that was based on one of their heritage watches. So what happened with Longines is they found a watch which they manufactured in what, 1940s or something like that. I'm not very sure, but you know, it was a heritage model, the Big Eye, where one of the sub-dials was a little bigger, and it became an instant hit when it came out with it. So one of the watches that Longines was involved in which is related to aviation, was the Longines Lindbergh hour angle watch. This was developed in 1931. So it's not that they don't have history. So versus the IWC, which was made famous for, of course, the Mark, I think it was the Mark 11 or Mark 12 series, which got really famous because it was supplied to the RAF, Royal Air Force of the British. And of course, if you look at history further, they also made watches, the Flieger type watches for the Germans during the World War. So IWC has a rich heritage in pilots' watches, but so does Longines. And the heritage also is pretty good in my opinion. They have been involved, and of course there are other watches as well, which I will not mention here. There is some videos that you can watch on YouTube or read about Longines history, and I will try to leave it in a link in the description so you can read that through. So the second thing I want to talk about that makes this better than the IWC Mark XX in my opinion is the dial. Okay, so I'm going to bring a close up here. You can have a look at the dial. Of course, let's go through some of the features which I find is really good on this kind of watch of this price range, which one of the points I'll discuss later. But if you look at the dial itself, look at how this dial is very dynamic. So you see, the thing about luxury watches is when you go up to buy a luxury watch, you want a watch that stands out and also have that kind of luxury feel. And Longines Spirit line, this watch specifically, is able to do that. It's really popular since it was launched. Now I'll tell you why. Okay, you might be able to see some shades of it through the reflection. Okay, but if you have this watch on your wrist and you're wearing it out, there are a few things I'll try to highlight to you. So let's have a look here. First things first is if you look at the dial, you've got a very matte dial. Okay, so that's very good for let's say legibility, which is what the Pilot Mark series is famous for as well. But what sets it apart from the IWC Mark XX, I find really much, is the dynamic depth of the dial, where you can see, okay, let's look at the outer minute tracks. If you look closely at the outer minute tracks here, they are a bit, raised, and it goes down a little bit to what we call a high polish round surround over here. So this high polish steel surround here really gives it that kind of shine and the kind of light, light display or reflection of the light that you see in very desirable dials such as a Grand Seiko, where the dials are really standout feature. And of course, you couple that with the second hand. So the red tip second hand is a very nice addition, but at the same time, notice how they have this indices, this diamond shaped indices. So it's a very thoughtful design. This diamond shaped indices here, which lines up to the polish surrounds, and how the seconds hand, it lines up perfectly as it crosses the diamond markers. So it really is a kind of attention to detail which you don't really get in low-end watches, and that's why I believe this is really a really good contender to the Mark 20. And of course, look at the Arabic numerals as well. Now here's where there's another standout feature that people don't notice, and sometimes it's a bit hard to see in videos and pictures. But when you hold this watch in the light and you're going out, it's a little raised. So the Arabic numerals are a little raised. Okay, let's try to get it here. You can see it's a little raised, and at the same time it's filled very much with lume. So you got lume plots here, you got the lume plots on the Arabic numerals, and also the seconds hand tip, and the hands, the hours and minute markers, hours and minute hands as well. So this is one of the things that's very attractive about the dial. And you've got the applied logo over there, together with the Longines. Let me try to, so that you can see the logo here. Let's pull it out so it hangs. Right? See? So it's got this applied logo over there, which I think is a very nice touch. Okay, it is a brilliant touch that gives it a sense that it's well made as well. And of course the date view. Now, I know this date view is not perfect. Okay, some people prefer it without the date view, but for me, if I look at the watch, honestly speaking, this date view is okay. Okay. If you look at the Mark 20, which I'm going to show you a picture here on comparison right here, you can see even in the Mark 20, they still have not fixed the date window. I just don't get it. You know, of course they've got it at the color to match now, but if you look very carefully at the date window and you realize it's not perfectly aligned to the numerals, it really irks me. I mean, for a watch like the IWC Mark 20, you can tell that the attention to detail is not really there. They have not fixed it for many versions, and that's a big disappointment. But here in the Longines, it's okay, because you know that you're not paying that much money. Of course, this is the only thing that I find is not so great about the watch, but you know, it has that kind of other parts and other plays of the watch that plays very well with the watch. And of course, if you look at this 5-star chronometer here, now I'm going to put some pictures here. It is very historically relevant to the Longines Spirit line. So some of the people have said that, hey, you know, the 5 stars don't look good, you know, they're annoying, they're distracting. It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think that's what makes this watch unique. If they remove this 5-star, they'll be removing a part of the heritage of this watch that is really unique to this. So they have to have it there, and I do like it very much. It works very well with the dial. Okay, so you can see that all the high polish on the indices as well. So the lume is filling the Arabic numerals, like I said, and it's surrounded by this high polish. Okay, and yeah, the other thing I can say about the dial is they're all lumed. I mean, come on. If you look at the IWC Big Pilot 43, now that is a very beautiful watch. In fact, I think if you're looking at the IWC Mark 20, you should, and if you can, push out. I know it's a different price range, but you should go for the Pilot 43 instead. Don't go for the Mark 20, okay? Because the Pilot 43, if your wrist can take it, even if it's a little big, it is the ultimate IWC watch, which has the heritage and is actually well made. So if you look at the picture of the IWC Big Pilot 43 now, all the indices are lumed, all the Arabic numerals are lumed, everything's lumed, and I think that's how it should be. But if you look at the IWC Mark 20, what really bugs me compared to this is the Mark 20 does not have fully lumed numerals. I mean, come on, IWC, that is really cheap. And you know, they could have done it. You know, it doesn't cost that much money, I think, but they really wanted to separate that, and the Big Pilot 43 probably is a price positioning reason. So it's not a really good thing. Whereas in a watch like this, if you look at it, you've got it fully lumed, and that really helps in legibility. I mean, it is supposed to be based on a Pilot watch anymore. It is supposed to be based on a Pilot watch anyway. So there you go. So let's talk about the third reason why I find that this watch really kicks the IWC Mark 20 as well. So if you think about the movement is not actually in-house for IWC. Same for the Longines. They are both based on the ADA movement. Okay, in fact, Longines is their own version, which is a bit more advanced. IWC have done their own versions. They have the same specs anyway. So they are very similar in that, and the movement here that really sets this apart versus the Mark 20 is, I can tell you one thing. If you look at the text here, it's chronometer certified. Okay, I think that at this price point, or even at these price points where you're getting your first luxury watch, you should have a chronometer certified watch. So it has all the good things in the movement. It's got 72-hour power reserve on this, and the movement is really such a pleasure to wind. It's hacking, hand winding as well, automatic movement. 72 hours is more than enough. You can put it on the weekend, on a Friday, pick it up on Monday, to rotate your watches. But the movement here is as good as the IWC movement. Even the modifications that Longines does to it, okay, it's not small as well. The modifications they do to it include in the Longines, I believe this is the Longines L8888 movement. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. But the movement here also has a silicon balanced hairspring. So in other words, if you were to compare this, it is quite anti-magnetic as well. So it does fit this watch very, very well. So it is a beautiful, beautiful movement. So let's go to the fourth reason why I think that this watch really stands above and is probably a better buy, or better than the IWC Mark 20, is because of its luxury case finishing. So if you look at watches like this, when you buy a luxury timepiece, I mean, to be honest, none of these are real pilot watches anymore. They are more of the a luxury watch purchase, in other words. So if you look at this versus the IWC, you can see the case finishing. This watch, the Longines Aviation Spirit, has a very, very nice finishing here. So you have this line that goes across, okay, it cutouts here, and you have this raised, there's a dome bezel, a raised bezel, which is high polish on the outer surrounds, and also a sapphire crystal, which sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. It helps with the reflections, and it's also a domed or convex shape sapphire crystal, which gives it that look as well. So that helps with not scratching the bezel, so it's a bit rounded outwards. So all these cost money. These are luxury finishes, and you can see here there's this line over here. Okay, I'll try to zoom in if you can see this line over here, this high polish line here. These are details that really set it apart, and how this part over here as well. So you get these little things here that of the case finishing, which I find really sets it in the luxury territory. Whereas if you compare it to the Mark 20, they have very good case finishing as well, but is it twice better than this? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Okay, and you even get this detail on the crown. So check out the crown. If you check out, this is a proper crown, and if you look at the finishing as well, look at how the crown, of course, when you screw in this watch, it actually recesses a little bit inside over here, not like the Mark 20. So these are really little details of luxury watches that you can see that the crown sits a little inside, and it's got a wonderful shape. It's not just square, and it's big enough. So it makes it easy to hand wind, make it easy to adjust the time if you want to do it as well. Finally, I'm going to go to the fifth reason why I think that this watch is better, which is the price. So with the price of this brand new, so this Longines Spirit, I think retails for $2,000 US dollars. Okay, it's really so much about the price. And if you look at this watch and you compare it for the price you're paying, mind you, the IWC retails double the price of this watch. Okay, is it worth double? Is it as good? Does it have the same luxury things about it that makes it worth double the price? Is the movement so much better? Are all the little details much finer? I don't think so. I think this watch stands on its class of its own, and it will continue to, people who want to buy the IWC Mark 20 will instead consider to buy this watch. And I think that's what makes it special. It's no longer a pilot watch, and it's got all the heritage values, and it is priced appropriately. And of course, let's not forget the last reason is which is a problem with the IWC Mark XX, is the dial is just too normal. You know, it's a bit of a sterile dial. I know there are a lot of details about it that's very nice, but if you compare this is an original design, and I think this is going to be a very hard contender to be a future classic. Beautiful proportions as well. But if you look at the IWC Mark XX, I'm going to show you some examples. You know, you get watches. I mean, if you talk about original manufacturers of the Flieger watches, you have brands like Stowa, you have brands like Laco, Steinhardt, including you know, a new watch brand Archimede, who used to make the cases for the Flieger watches as well. They have a very similar dial layout. If that's the kind of sterile look you're looking for, then go for those watches instead. You know, it's cheaper than the Longines as well. It's actually cheaper than this watch here. It is cheaper. I think they're only about 1,000 euros, and they're pretty good movements as well. And the design, you know, is very similar to IWC Mark XX. I think that's the biggest problem I have with the Mark XXs. But if you wear this watch like here, this Longines, you will see that, you know, you can tell it's a different watch. It's a Flieger type watch. It's classic, but you know it's different. And I think that's the main difference. So when you buy your first luxury watch purchase, that's what you really want. So thanks for watching. And if you like this video, you know, please subscribe. I've noticed from the analytics that like 90% of you are not subscribed to the video. It will really help the channel to create more content like this. Thanks, and have a great day.